They smirked as the black delivery man stepped onto their mansion's doorstep. "Use the back entrance," one of them scoffed. But when he pulled out his ID and revealed who he really was, their faces drained of color, because they had just humiliated the wrong man. Marcus Johnson had always known the value of hard work and determination. Born into the unforgiving grip of poverty, he had risen through sheer grit and intelligence to carve out a niche for himself in the world of luxury logistics. His company, Prestige Carriers, had become synonymous with the discreet, careful handling of high-end goods. Expensive watches, designer clothes, rare pieces of art. Prestige Carriers delivered them all to an exclusive clientele who demanded nothing but the best. Despite his success, Marcus had never lost touch with his roots, and he prided himself on treating his employees with the respect and fairness he wished he had received in his early days. However, recent troubling reports had begun to tarnish the company's reputation. Some of his delivery staff had complained of encountering racist behavior during their deliveries in certain upscale neighborhoods, reports that Marcus found both disturbing and unacceptable. Determined to understand the situation firsthand, Marcus devised a plan to go undercover. He swapped his tailored suits for the standard company uniform, a plain polo shirt and khaki trousers, topped with a cap bearing the Prestige Carriers logo. He planned to join his team on the front lines, delivering packages to see for himself the conditions they faced. Early one crisp morning, Marcus stepped into the role of a delivery driver. He felt a mix of anticipation and apprehension as he climbed into the nondescript company truck, a far cry from the luxury vehicles he was accustomed to. In his hands, he carried a package destined for one of the city's most affluent areas, a place where the manicured lawns and sprawling mansions belied the ugliness hidden behind closed doors. His first stop was a grand estate that looked more like a small palace than a home. As he drove up the long, winding driveway, he rehearsed the delivery protocol, ensuring he'd perform his part convincingly. He parked the truck and, with the package securely in his arms, approached the massive front door. Marcus rang the doorbell and waited. The door swung open to reveal a group of individuals gathered in the foyer, laughter and conversation flowing freely amongst them. Their demeanor changed abruptly as they noticed Marcus standing at the doorstep, uniformed and holding their delivery. The warm chatter cooled, and an uncomfortable silence fell over the group. Then, unexpectedly, laughter broke out. It wasn't friendly or welcoming. It was mocking. One of the men, leaning against the ornate doorframe, looked Marcus up and down with a smirk. "Didn't realize they'd send us someone straight out of the hood to deliver our valuables," he joked, his comment drawing snickers from his companions. Marcus felt a sting at the comment, a harsh reminder of the discrimination that had been reported to him. But he maintained his professional demeanor, though inside, his resolve hardened. This encounter was only the first of the day, and already it had given him a clear view of the challenges his employees faced, a front-row seat to the discrimination that was more pervasive than he had imagined. He realized then that this undercover journey would be far more than just a series of deliveries. It was a deep dive into the societal issues that still affected his staff, his business, and his community. As he handed over the package, his mind raced with thoughts of how to address and combat these ingrained prejudices. The path forward was uncertain, but Marcus knew one thing for sure. Change was necessary, and it had to start with him. Marcus Johnson stood firm at the doorstep of Richard Parker's lavish mansion, a high-value delivery in his hands. The air was crisp, and the sun was just beginning to set, casting long shadows across the manicured lawns that sprawled before him. He knocked confidently, adjusting his grip on the package containing rare vintage watches valued at over $100,000. The door swung open, revealing Richard Parker, a tall man with a presence that filled the doorway. He was flanked by two friends, equally affluent in appearance, their expressions a mix of curiosity and condescension. Richard's eyes narrowed slightly as he looked Marcus up and down, taking in his delivery uniform and the package he held. "You sure you're at the right house?" he smirked, his tone dripping with disbelief. Marcus, well versed in maintaining professionalism in the face of provocation, responded smoothly. "I have a package for you, sir." His voice was calm, betraying none of the irritation that flickered briefly behind his eyes. Richard chuckled, turning to his friends who leaned against the frame of the massive door, their laughter echoing in the high-ceilinged entryway. "Damn, they'll let just anyone handle luxury goods these days," he jested, his comment drawing a round of snickers from his companions. One of Richard's friends, a man with sharp features and a sneer that seemed permanently etched on his face, added, "Better check the package before he runs off with it." The laughter grew louder, the sound harsh and jarring in the otherwise serene setting. Marcus's jaw clenched momentarily, the muscle twitching in barely suppressed frustration. Yet, his expression remained composed, his training in customer service holding him steady despite the rising tide of disrespect. As Marcus contemplated his next move, the situation escalated further. Richard's wife, Eleanor, emerged from behind her husband, a glass of white wine in hand. She eyed Marcus dismissively before speaking in a tone that was both loud and clear, intended for the ears of not just those at the door, but anyone nearby. "Why didn't you come to the back entrance?" Her words were pointed, the implication clear and cutting. The group erupted into laughter once more, the sound bitter to Marcus's ears. He took a deep, steadying breath, feeling the weight of the moment. He understood now more than ever the daily challenges his employees faced. This was not just about a single delivery. It was about dignity, respect, and the battle against deeply ingrained prejudices. With deliberate slowness, Marcus reached into his pocket. The laughter around him paused, a flicker of uncertainty passing through the group as they watched him. He pulled out his ID, not just any identification, but the card that listed him as the CEO of Prestige Carriers. He held it up, ensuring everyone at the door had a clear view. "I'm Marcus Johnson, the owner of Prestige Carriers," he stated, his voice firm, each word underscored with a quiet power. "I made this delivery today not just to ensure the safety of these valuable items, but to understand better the service we provide and the reception our staff receives." The reaction was immediate. Richard's smirk faded, replaced by a look of surprise and confusion. Eleanor's face paled, her earlier arrogance giving way to uncertainty. The friends, too, suddenly found themselves without words, their laughter dying down as the gravity of their mistake settled in. Marcus continued, his tone even but commanding. "This experience has been enlightening. I assure you, it will inform how we train our employees, and perhaps more importantly, how we choose our clientele moving forward." The implications of his words hung heavily in the air. Richard, recovering slightly, stuttered an apology, his composure shaken. "Mr. Johnson, we didn't realize—" "Clearly," Marcus cut him off, his gaze unwavering. "Good evening." With that, he handed the package to a visibly shaken Richard, turned on his heel, and walked back to his delivery truck, his posture upright, his head held high. As he drove away from the mansion, Marcus felt a mix of emotions swirling within him: anger, disappointment, but also a fierce pride in his own resilience and the knowledge that this incident would spark a significant shift in his company. The disrespect he had faced was not just a personal affront, but a catalyst for change. Marcus knew the road ahead would be challenging, but he was ready to lead his company not just to success, but to set a new standard in ethical business practices. The atmosphere in the opulent entryway of Richard Parker's mansion, once filled with derisive laughter and condescension, was now thick with tension. Marcus Johnson held his identification card, the laminated surface catching the gleam of the chandelier overhead, and flipped it with a practiced flick of his wrist. He extended it towards Richard, ensuring that the text was impossible to ignore. "Marcus Johnson, CEO and owner of Elite Logistics," the card declared in bold, authoritative letters. Richard's smirk vanished as he read the ID, his previous confidence evaporating. The casual arrogance that had characterized his demeanor mere moments ago was replaced by a dawning realization of the gravity of the situation. His friends, who had been quick to join in on the mockery, now fell silent, their earlier amusement turning to unease. Dead silence enveloped the group. Marcus, maintaining unbroken eye contact with Richard, let the silence stretch, allowing the impact of his identity to fully sink in. "I own this company, the one delivering your luxury items," Marcus stated clearly, his voice steady and imbued with a quiet power. A gasp escaped Richard's wife, Eleanor, her hand flying to her mouth in shock. The group of friends shuffled uncomfortably, exchanging looks that oscillated between disbelief and concern. Richard himself began to sweat, the beads forming on his forehead visible in the soft lighting of the foyer. "Wait, this must be a joke, right?" Richard stammered, attempting to laugh it off, his glance darting around as if looking for someone to confirm this was all a setup. Marcus's expression remained impassive, his gaze never wavering from Richard's now pale face. "Oh, it's real. And guess what? I came here today because I've received complaints about how my black employees are treated," he revealed, each word delivered with precision and intent. The color drained completely from Richard's face as the implications of Marcus's visit became painfully clear. The laughter and disdain that had greeted Marcus upon his arrival now seemed grotesquely misplaced. Richard attempted to regain his composure, but the shock of being confronted so directly by the CEO and owner of the very company he had disparaged made it difficult. "Look, Mr. Johnson, we didn't mean any," Richard began, his voice faltering. Marcus cut him off, his tone firm yet devoid of animosity. "What you meant doesn't change what happened. It doesn't change how you made someone feel, how you treated them based on assumptions." The rest of Richard's friends were now utterly silent, their earlier bravado gone as they absorbed the seriousness of the situation. They too understood that their actions had consequences, especially when those actions perpetuated discrimination and bias. "Your actions today, and the actions of others like you, send a clear message to my employees and to people everywhere. It tells them they are less valued because of their skin color," Marcus continued, his words resonating in the now somber foyer. Richard looked down, unable to meet Marcus's gaze any longer. The reality of his behavior, mirrored in Marcus's words, was too much to bear. Marcus softened his tone slightly, understanding that this was a moment of teaching as much as it was a confrontation. "This is an opportunity, Richard, an opportunity for you and everyone here to reflect on your actions and to make real changes, not just for my employees, but for anyone who walks through your door." As Marcus prepared to leave, he added, "I hope you take this lesson to heart. Discrimination has no place in our society, and it certainly has no place in business transactions. Consider this when you interact with others in the future." With that, Marcus turned and walked out of the mansion, leaving behind a group of chastened individuals. As he stepped outside, the cool air felt refreshing against his skin, a stark contrast to the stifling atmosphere he had left behind. He knew this encounter would likely be a turning point for Richard and his friends, a harsh but necessary lesson in empathy and respect. Marcus's drive back was contemplative. While he was pleased to have stood up for his employees, he knew that his work wasn't done. The fight against discrimination was ongoing, but today he had won a significant battle, not just for his company, but for the dignity of all who worked for him. The air was thick with tension as Marcus Johnson stood firm on the doorstep of Richard Parker's grand mansion, the luxury setting belied by the ugliness of the moment. Unwavering, Marcus faced Richard and his high society friends, who had just minutes ago delivered their casually racist remarks, thinking they were above reproach. Marcus's voice was calm but powerful as he began to speak, each word deliberate and charged with the weight of truth. "Let's get one thing clear," he started, locking eyes with each person on the porch. "The casual racism that just spilled out so easily. It's not just harmful, it's unacceptable, and it's not something we can just laugh off." Around them, the neighborhood had begun to take notice. Curtains twitched, and neighbors slowly emerged from their opulent homes, drawn to the commotion. The circle of onlookers grew, their expressions ranging from curiosity to concern, forming a silent audience to the unfolding drama. Richard's wife, Eleanor, face flushed with a mix of embarrassment and defiance, attempted to interject. "We were just joking around. It's all in good fun. You're taking it too seriously," she stammered, her voice shaky as she tried to dismiss the gravity of their words. Marcus shook his head, his expression stern. "Racism disguised as humor is still racism. It's not good fun when it perpetuates stereotypes and spreads hate." He paused, letting his words sink in among the gathered crowd, his gaze then shifting back to the now anxious group on the porch. At that moment, Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. The screen lit up, revealing the ongoing recording. "This conversation has been recorded," he announced, his voice loud enough for the neighbors to hear. "Every derogatory word, every racist joke. And this isn't just staying between us. This is going to HR. Every racist complaint. Documented." A ripple of shock passed through the crowd. Richard, who had paled considerably, began to panic. Wait, we didn't mean it like that," he exclaimed, his voice cracking under the pressure as he realized the seriousness of the implications. Marcus, however, was unmoved by the plea. "You might not have meant to reveal your prejudices so openly, but you did. And not meaning it doesn't erase the impact your words have had." His voice was resolute, his decision clear. He turned slightly to address the onlookers, his voice carrying throughout the neighborhood. "This is what happens when unchecked prejudices are allowed to fester. This isn't about one day or one incident. It's about a pattern of behavior that's all too common and destructive." The neighbors murmured among themselves, some nodding in agreement while others looked away. Uncomfortable, but unable to deny the truth of his statements. Marcus's actions were not just about calling out one instance of racism, but about challenging a broader culture of discrimination that often went unaddressed in such privileged environments. Turning back to Richard and his friends, Marcus's final words were unequivocal. "I hope this serves as a wake-up call, not just to you but to everyone who thinks like you. Change starts when you recognize the problem, and it's clear today that you've been part of it. Let's hope you can be part of the solution too." With that, Marcus stepped back, his piece said, his stance clear. He had not just stood up for his employees, but had taken a stand against racism in a way that left a profound impact on everyone present. The recording on his phone was more than evidence. It was a testament to the necessity of accountability. As he walked away, the silence he left in his wake was more eloquent than any applause. It was the silence of contemplation, of confrontation with uncomfortable truths. A silence that, hopefully, would inspire reflection and, ultimately, change. In the aftermath of Marcus Johnson's confrontation with Richard Parker and his friends, the ripple effects were immediate and far-reaching. The incident did not simply fade into the background. Instead, it catalyzed a series of actions that would irreversibly alter the course of Richard's life and career. First and foremost, Richard's company got involved. Marcus was not only a prominent CEO, but also one of the company's most significant business partners. His experiences, and the evidence he had gathered, could not be ignored. The recording of the incident, which Marcus had shared with the company's HR department, was damning. Upon review, the company executives were appalled by Richard's behavior, particularly given their ongoing efforts to promote diversity and inclusivity within their business operations. The company swiftly launched a comprehensive internal investigation into Richard's behavior, not only focusing on the incident with Marcus, but also digging into his past interactions within the company and with other business partners. The findings were troubling, revealing a pattern of questionable remarks and decisions that had previously gone unchecked or unreported due to Richard's senior position and influence. The conclusion was inescapable. Richard's behavior was in direct violation of the company's values and policies. The decision was made with heavy hearts but firm resolve. He was terminated from his position. The news of his firing was communicated through an internal memo that emphasized the company's commitment to maintaining a respectful and inclusive work environment, subtly signaling to all employees that discriminatory behavior, regardless of one's rank or history with the company, would not be tolerated. Word of Richard's dismissal and the reasons behind it quickly spread beyond the confines of the office. His neighbors, many of whom had witnessed the confrontation or heard about it through the tightly knit community network, were shocked. Richard had always been regarded as a pillar of the community, involved in various charitable activities and social events. However, the revelation of his true character, as documented in Marcus's recording, shattered this image. The neighborhood's perception of Richard changed overnight. Invitations to social gatherings dried up, polite nods turned into cold shoulders. His presence at community events became a source of tension. His attempts to engage with neighbors met with disdain or outright avoidance. The man who once held a place of esteem was now a pariah, his reputation in tatters. Meanwhile, Marcus's actions were met with widespread acclaim, particularly from those within his company and industry who had faced similar challenges. but lacked the means or platform to confront them effectively. His willingness to stand up against racism, documented so publicly, became a rallying point for discussions on corporate responsibility and community standards regarding diversity and respect. Back at Elite Logistics, Marcus used this experience as a cornerstone for new initiatives aimed at strengthening the company's policies on discrimination and harassment. Training programs were revamped, and forums were established to allow employees to share their experiences and suggestions for improving the workplace culture. As for Marcus, the ordeal reaffirmed his commitment to leading not just with business acumen, but with moral clarity. While he took no pleasure in Richard's downfall, he recognized the necessity of his actions as part of the broader fight against discrimination, a fight that extended far beyond the gates of a luxurious neighborhood or the boardrooms of corporate power. Several weeks after the incident that shook the foundations of both Richard Parker's life and the community around him, Marcus Johnson sat down for an interview with a major news outlet. The journalist, keenly aware of the viral nature of the video and the profound implications it had for corporate responsibility and personal accountability, posed a pointed question to Marcus. How does it feel to have exposed the deeply ingrained prejudices of your business partner? Marcus, dressed in his customary sharp suit, offered a small, knowing smirk. I didn't expose them, he replied coolly. They exposed themselves. His response, succinct yet powerful, captured the essence of the situation. Marcus had merely provided the platform. The individuals involved had revealed their true characters through their own words and actions. The interview aired on a Sunday evening, capturing a large audience. Viewers were not just drawn to the story because of its dramatic elements, but also because of the deeper social issues it unearthed. As the video of the incident continued to circulate online, it sparked widespread discussions about racism, privilege, and the often hidden biases that can pervade even the most polished and professional environments. In response to the public outcry and the internal shakeup, the company once associated with Richard took decisive action to rectify the cultural deficiencies within its ranks. It rolled out mandatory diversity and inclusion training for all employees, from the executives to the entry-level staff. These sessions were designed not just to educate, but to foster open dialogue, encouraging employees to share their experiences and learn from each other in a constructive and supportive setting. Meanwhile, Marcus took proactive steps to ensure that what happened at Richard's mansion was an anomaly and not a recurring issue within his own company, Elite Logistics. He established a task force dedicated to reviewing and enhancing the company's diversity policies. This team was tasked with implementing regular reviews of staff interactions with clients, establishing a more robust whistleblowing system, and creating ongoing training programs that emphasized ethical conduct and respect for all individuals regardless of background. Marcus's commitment to change didn't stop at corporate policies. He became a vocal advocate for diversity and inclusion within the logistics industry, speaking at conferences and participating in panels to discuss the challenges and opportunities for creating more inclusive work environments. As Marcus continued to lead his company and influence his industry, he remained vigilant, always mindful of the lessons learned from that pivotal day. His actions not only transformed his company but also set a standard for leadership, a standard that demanded integrity, respect, and a relentless commitment to justice.